We're launching with a Tanzanian vanilla, a chocolate truffle, and a mango yuzu sorbet.
Oh my gosh, my mouth just watered. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Different Leaf, the podcast, a show for new and experienced cannabis consumers. I'm Brit Smith. And a very happy high holidays to all of you. 420 has been a day of celebration for marijuana aficionados since teenagers started meeting behind bike sheds after school in the 70s to enjoy some of that sweet Mary Jane. And this year, it's our second 420 in some kind of semi-lockdown, which means we've still got to avoid passing the joint. But luckily for all of us here in Massachusetts, we have a few new ways to enjoy our weed this year that don't involve sharing and will make for a super sweet summer. This episode, we're going to explore the luxurious new ways that we can ingest pot. First up, we're going to talk to David Yusefzadeh, CEO and founder of Cloud Creamery, an edible company based out of Framingham, Massachusetts that creates cannabis-infused ice creams and sorbets. Hi, nice to meet you, David, finally.
Nice to meet you too.
I've heard so much about you. I've read all about your Cloud Creamery, and I'm really very excited for what the summer is going to look like. This is going to be a different summer to any other summer.
I hope so.
Why did you choose ice cream of all of the things that you can infuse in the world? Why'd you go with ice cream?
Well, I think fat is one of the best receptors for most cannabinoids. They're easy to bind and easy to disperse. I think for me, selfishly, ice cream is something that I find myself, consuming pretty often. So when thinking about taking cannabis as medicine, I wanted something that didn't feel like medicine. I didn't want it to feel transactional. I wanted it to be an enjoyable experience. So I felt if I could pair it with something that I really enjoy and that most people enjoy, that the community would be receptive to it.
Definitely. Do you know what? I've been trying to talk my dad into trying some sort of low-grade THC for a long time. Mm-hmm. And when I told him ice cream was on the table, he was like, oh, maybe I'll come visit Massachusetts this summer. So, yeah, I think that you're going to bring in some new folks with this one. This is like, I've never heard of something like this. This is very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we saw, we do lots of R&D and I'm constantly combing through the internet and through Instagram. There was a brand in Portland, Oregon, about 4 years ago that was doing ice cream. And for whatever reason, they decided to stop and they went into different edibles. So it's certainly been attempted before. And I know that there's lots of kind of legacy market ice cream that's out there, but for us, it's more of bringing cannabis to the wider population as a brand and as a product entity to try to modify what the current market looks like. And we believe the best way to do that is through food.
I'm excited about that. I like to put ice cream on a lot of different things. I'm not just a cone person. I'm a waffle and ice cream person. Since I married a guy from Georgia, I learned that that's a thing, and that's now one of my favorite things. So I'm also excited for breakfasts. What I'm really interested in is how do you infuse ice cream? How is this done? Sure. I don't want to try it at home, but I want to know how you do it.
Sure. So, how we literally infuse it is proprietary, but what I would say is that we are using CO2 live resin oil. So we're not using distillate in our product, which I think is a big differentiator for us. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned earlier, fat can hold cannabinoids easily, and some of the plant-based stabilizers that we use make it very simple to emulsify together. Sooner than later, we're going to be using a sonicator, which is a device that pushes sound waves through our oil and part of our mix to infuse them. And what that does is it breaks the particles into a nanoemulsion, into super small particles, which allows for a faster onset. Because a lot of the people we speak to say, hey, edibles don't really work for me because I can't ever truly gauge how long it's going to take or when I'm getting the full effect or what that balance is. And so we're trying to cut all of that out and have it be a faster onset so that you can know right away. Because again, lots of people say, I ate something, I didn't feel it, so I ate another one, and then it was too late for quite some time. We are a group that is constantly evaluating what the consumer is going to go through. I think for us, coming from the hospitality industry, that's what we've been doing our entire career, is working in hotels and restaurants, is literally putting ourselves in the guest seat and seeing what something would look like, what something would taste like, what their overall experience is going to be. So this is still in that same vein.
Wow, that's incredible. I had no idea that kind of technology even existed. That you can make the oil in a certain way so that it gets me high faster. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly, that's kind of the step one. We are going to get into ice cream sandwiches. We're getting into frozen lemonades. We're going to get into a watermelon limeade for the summer. So to your point, it's important for us to make sure that consumers feel a food experience. And I think for so long, a lot of the edibles are just transactional. They don't actually love the flavor or love the taste. You know, it's just something, just THC is the only, you know, purchasing metric that they use. So for us, we're trying to create a half pint, 7 or 8 scoops of ice cream so you can actually enjoy the flavor while still gaining that same amount.
So how many milligrams would be in a typical serving? Because for me, I need a lot in an edible to feel anything.
And I do too. To be honest with you, we've been battling with the Cannabis Control Commission this entire time. I should say we've been asking. They haven't really responded, so it's not really a battle. But that lack of communication has forced us to put out single serves. We were hoping to put a 25 milligram pint and a 50 milligram pint because I'm in the same boat. Yeah. And we know that there's a lot of people out there, especially in the medical side of things, that prefer that. But for some reason, they allow other products to be on the market, but they're forcing us to take different protocols that don't match. So, I mean, I've even sent them things on the market that didn't match what they're asking us to do, and they just literally don't respond. So,
wow. Well, let's hope that you maybe blaze some trails for makers that come after you and would face similar barriers.
Hope so. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, once we were approved and an article came out in the Boston Globe, a lot of small business owners have reached out to us and said, listen, how did you figure this out? They won't answer us. They won't respond to us. So yeah, I do believe that we have responsibility to the other small business owners to help them get through this process as well.
Right on. Well, now that you guys are kind of coming to market and you're planning to release in 14 dispensaries, is that right, on 420?
We are waiting on our commence operations from the CCC still. So we technically can't produce anything quite yet. I visited 9 dispensaries last week alone. So I think we're over the 40 mark for letters of intent for people to sell with. So it's going to come out of the gate pretty efficiently. We're only going to really start with 5, 6, 7, 8. We started communicating, reaching out to all the female minority-owned dispensaries, which aren't too many in the state. We wanted to touch base with them to try to drive revenue to their stores, especially, you know, from the beginning, instead of some of the larger multi-state operators. So our goal is, again, to support, you know, the small folks in our local community, and that includes the dispensary owners.
Well, I'm excited because I often go to Caroline's Cannabis. That's right down the street. Yeah. So that's where I'll be grabbing mine for the summer. What kind of flavors are you guys going to be offering at first?
We're launching with a Tanzanian vanilla, a chocolate truffle, and a mango yuzu sorbet.
Oh my gosh, my mouth just watered.
So I went to graduate school with a friend who was really focused on honey, but he imports honey from around the world. And probably about a year ago, he said, hey, I'm actually getting involved in this vanilla side of things because he spends a lot of time in Tanzania and Eastern Africa. And so he's been able to get us some really fantastic vanilla beans that are just super, super high quality, super fruity and flavorful, but also from a unique area. And, you know, part of what we want to do is not only celebrate the terpenes and celebrate cannabis in our products, but bring different kinds of chocolate, different kinds of vanilla that come from sustainable sources. So this is from a sustainable farm where we get it direct shipped. In our chocolate truffle, we're using cacao from a B corporation, a female-owned corporation out of Latin America. That is more or less a collective that brings a lot of small farmers together and then puts their products on a market like ours where they can demand more per kg. So
I love a tasty product that has really great roots to it too. That's really cool.
That's what we're trying. Yeah, that's kind of, I think, what our target market is people that really care about what's going into their bodies, but also acknowledging that every time they purchase something that they're voting with their dollar.
Yeah, I love it. How long would you stay high for if you were to take like a 5 milligram scoop or, get yourself a single serving? How long does it usually last? Because I know edibles can kind of kick in for a few hours.
Sure. Well, everyone's different. Everyone's metabolism, everyone's body content, every kind of variable exists. And I think in similar thoughts of, going to a bar on an empty stomach versus going to drink alcohol on a full stomach, it's a different experience. So what I would say is there's probably a good 4-hour buzz that comes with it, maybe a little bit before, maybe a little bit after. Again, everyone's different. But what we're hoping to do, again, with the amount of food that's in our container is really to help it not be such a one-shot wham. It's meant to be just like a gradual kind of build.
That would be nice. That's really what gets me with a lot of edibles. You get nothing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, the edible hit. You almost forget you took it.
Yeah.
So I like that creep,
Yeah, and I think, we cook dinner for quite a few people, and we're always hearing their experience and always chatting with them. Most of the stories say, hey, I had a brownie one time, and I'm like, I understand where this is going.
Yeah.
We're certainly not. Our goal is more to replace that memory with something more pleasant from an edible experience and try to kind of open that way. Because I think for us, we see the edibles as really the only side of the industry, not the only side, but the main side of the cannabis industry that has not been innovated, right? All of these vertically integrated places have had to grow their own, process their own, retail their own, and cook their own products. And with all due respect, a lot of them are not chefs. We've been tasting food every single day of our lives, evaluating them, modifying things, changing things. So I think what we're hoping to bring is not only conceptually a different experience, but flavor along with it.
Nice. Well, I'm very excited to spend my 420 going out to one of these dispensaries and grabbing myself a little ice cream and having a really nice chilled day. Before we hear about THC-infused drinks, do us a solid. Grab your phone and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us right now. Also, make sure you're following us on Instagram @DifferentLeaf so you can drool over the images of David Yusefzadeh's delicious ice cream. Next, we're going to talk to Matt Gamble, Vice President of Operations at Theory Wellness, where they've currently got 4 packs of weed-infused seltzers that kind of resemble White Claws, but without the alcohol and without the hangover. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
It's so nice to virtually meet you. Thank you so much for joining me today. This episode, I want to look into the new and different and luxurious ways that we have started to ingest cannabis. Obviously, you're my go-to guy to talk about how cannabis drinks are made. So, Matt, you used to have a background in the beer production industry, and then you moved over to cannabis. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I worked at a brewery, a beer distributor, and then now I'm in the cannabis industry.
So can you tell me, I know that this is an incredibly complex question, and I always do this, but can you tell me how you would take a plant and turn it into an alcoholic or THC-infused beverage?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a vertically integrated company, so we actually control the whole supply chain here. And so what we do is we grow the plants, we harvest the plant material. That plant material is then extracted, and we use a hydrocarbon or a CO2 extraction method for that, depending on what availability we have on our machines. Once the oil is extracted, we turn it into distillate. So we distill it using a vacuum still, which creates a very high potency THC concentrate. That THC concentrate then goes through a nano emulsification process.
Whoa.
And that's the magic to the whole process here. So that THC molecule is combined with a proprietary blend of surfactants and other compounds that allow it to become water soluble. And that's the whole trick to the cannabis beverage, is that the oil itself does not want to dissolve in water ever. Mm-hmm. So we have to make it into a solution that can then be dissolved in water. And once it's dissolved in water, we then use our beverage equipment to blend a batch, and then we have a canning line, and the liquid is canned in cans, and it's ready for sale.
Wow. I imagine it's a pretty major process. So, when I was a kid, we were just smoking weed. Maybe we'd make some edibles. I had no idea how to make a gummy for the life of me. I could never have done that. Like, I was making brownies and cookies. And now we're onto all these different new ways of ingesting, and now we're drinking. Do you think that this is a kind of product that people would like to start on if they haven't really tried any other kind of cannabis edible before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the beverages offer a very unique approach to consuming cannabis, because the nano-emulsification process that I mentioned creates very, very small particle sizes, which, as kind of a side effect, cause a rapid onset in your body. So it's not like consuming another edible where you have that long waiting period as the effect ramps up.